Prologue. So many interesting things happen in Amanzi when the sun goes down. Layla stalked along the river walk. She kept her hood drawn and walked against a downpour of rain. It came in sideways off the Androsian Sea and hit the stone bridges of the outer quarter in slices. Layla moved like a local. She practically weaved through the waterside markets of the city's outskirts. The canals there ran dark, nothing like the crystalline colour the capital's ocean was famous for. Out there, the water was stagnant, thick with dirt and algae. It lapped at the crumbling wooden foundations of homes that leaned over one another above the surface. There was a sour scent to the air, briny, almost as if something was rotting. Tarp barely protected the surrounding stores against the rain. Layla crossed an intricate stone footbridge and went down stairs carved into the wall. Moss covered every step. She watched her footing as she tiptoed down. She wore a long and black, silk-lined yet practical cloak. Stella would approve. Beneath it was a fitted suit of dark blue and black, covered in what looked like dragon scales. There weren't many people around, other than a couple of dock workers walking along the canal's edge. Nothing about her stood out. After all, that was the point. At the foot of the stairs, a rickety wooden walkway ran along the canal under an overhang of old stone. The architecture here predated Central Amanzi's modern reconstruction by centuries. Old iron lanterns, which nobody bothered to light anymore, hung from brackets that had rusted onto the walls. Far off on the horizon, the newer parts of Amanzi glittered. The cool light of the modern towers reached across the water and died somewhere short of the slums. The guilt that Andros could still have places like this crossed her mind. She stopped where the walkway widened into a small alcove beneath one of the larger bridges. There was a bench against the wall, which was cracked down the middle. Rain dripped through the gaps overhead, but the darkness kept her hidden. The canal surface was still. On the far bank, a row of stacked houses rose from the edge of the water. Layla sat and waited. The rain was heavy, but at least it was warm. She drew moisture from the air without thinking about it, and a thin film of liquid coated her fingertips. She rolled the droplets across her knuckles. The water turned pink and viscous and then back again. She counted the exits as she did so. 2. The stairs behind her and the corner to her side. After several minutes, a figure appeared at the far end of the walkway, turning to each side as it came toward Layla. 2 braids swung at the figure's shoulders, the same plait she had tied and untied 100 times when the two of them were 8 years old and learning how to dance together. Anne. She was a lot thinner than she had been the last time Layla had seen her. Her freckled skin had gone a white that should not have been possible, pale as she already was. Her usual strawberry blonde hair almost seemed grey. "You came," Anne said, almost through a tremor she tried to bury under a smile. She lowered her hood, stepped forward, and wrapped her arms around Layla. "I said I would," Layla replied as she pulled back. Red rimmed Anne's eyes. "What's wrong? You look tired." "I am tired," Anne said flatly. "Do you have any idea how worried I've been? I had to make up stories about what had happened to you so I could stop imagining new ones. I'm sorry, Anne, but it's not safe. I couldn't risk contacting you, or anyone I love. I know but I don't understand. Why can't you come home?" Anne sat on the bench and tucked her legs underneath peculiarly, which looked rather uncomfortable, but it was the way she always had, even as a child. Layla sat beside her and bumped a shoulder against hers. "You look terrible, by the way. When did you last eat a proper meal?" "Yesterday," Layla replied. "Liar." A smile crept onto Anne's face. "Do you remember when we used to sneak glycololudi from the kitchens after classes? We'd eat them until we were sick, and Madame also would lose her mind because we couldn't move afterwards without clutching our stomachs." Layla smiled too. "I remember you blaming me every time. Because it was always your idea." Anne pulled a wrapped parcel from her coat pocket and held it out. "I brought you something. It's from that bakery on Moty Street you love." Layla took it. The paper was warm to the touch, but she left it folded. "Where have you been?" Anne asked after a moment of silence. "Really, don't be vague like last time." Layla rested her head against the stone. "Nowhere interesting. Trying to stay out of trouble." "You've been looking for your friends, haven't you?" Layla leaned closer. "Yes, at first. But it isn't just about that anymore. Anyone with a connection to them. Anyone who might know where it's hidden is in danger." "But who, I? Connection to what? In danger how?" Listen, after they disappeared last year, I tried to reach an academic from Kasai to find out if they had any ideas. An academic of what? It's not important. Layla paused. Anyway, the day before we were meant to meet, I went to her home. Someone had boarded it up. The neighbours said she'd left in the night. Her quilla cat was still inside. Layla's throat caught, but she pushed past it. She'd had that animal for many years, Anne. She wouldn't have left it behind. Not willingly. I think someone took her. They'd stripped her shelves and her desk down to the wood. Everything else in the house remained untouched. They knew what they wanted, and they took only that. Layla dropped her voice until the rain and wind nearly swallowed it. Anyone who knows what I know is in danger. It's why you can't know. You just have to trust me. Something is happening in Magix, Anne, and now the dragon's flame has returned. It can't be a coincidence. Someone is looking for my friends. Someone with reach and resources. They're removing anyone who might know where it is, or anyone who might lead them to it. And you think you're next. How do you know? Because they already tried to take me. That's why I had to leave when I did. The rain picked up. It hammered the bridge above them and threw a fine mist off the canal. Layla wiped her face with the back of her hand. Surely, if that's true, you'd be safer at home. You know how my father will react if he finds out. I won't be able to. To be free to go where you please, Anne said. It sounds to me like you actually wanted to run. You have responsibilities, To the kingdom, yes, but also to yourself and to the people who love you. There's no use carrying the burden of all of these secrets alone. Layla looked down. How are they? My parents. Anne's hand, loose on her knee a moment ago, tensed. She opened her mouth, stopped, and stuttered. They're looking for you. They have been since you left. Every resource they have. Your father addresses the realm as though nothing is wrong, but everyone can see it. Layla said nothing. The rain gathered in the creases of her cloak, which ran in streams to the stone beneath her. They can't find me, she said at last. Not yet. If they bring me back, whoever is behind this will know where I am. They already know I'm a connection. Everyone around me becomes a target, Anne. Everyone. You'll be safe. Nobody will hurt you at home. Just like nobody could hurt the Princess of Solaria. That won't happen in Andros. You can't carry this alone. I have to. It's best for everyone, Layla snapped. Anne turned to face her. The skin around her eyes had gone red, blotched in patches across her freckles. Then why did you agree to meet me? Because you asked. And I miss you, Anne. Every day. Anne smiled again before she welled up and looked down, almost in shame. The water on Layla's fingers thickened of its own accord. Her head had begun to work before her heart caught up. Why did you ask me here, Anne? Your message said it was urgent. I told you. I needed to see you. To tell me what? I wanted to see you in person. Is that so strange? Anne tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I missed you, that's all. Layla took her by the shoulders. Anne, look at me. Anne raised her eyes from her lap. Her chin wobbled, and the performance fell away like the face of a cliff. What did you do? I did what I thought was right, Anne whispered. It's been over a year. You're not well, I can see it in your face. You're running yourself into the ground over something you won't even explain to me. I'm watching my best friend disappear in a different way than the people she's looking for. The film of water on Layla's fingers dropped away. Anne, what did you do? Anne stood and reached for Layla before pressing her head into her hands. Her breathing grew heavier. The palace came to me because they knew we were close. They asked me to bring you somewhere they could reach you. I said no. I said no so many times. But they told me what was happening to your mother. What the court is saying. What the press has started to ask. And I thought, if I could just get you to come in, if you could just talk to them, then maybe... Layla turned to the stairs. When are they coming? I'm sorry. Anne pressed her lips white and squeezed her eyes shut. Layla ran. She made it halfway to the stairs. Then the sounds of boots came, thundering on the stone above them. 2 cloaked shapes ran down the steps she'd used. 2 more around the far curve of the wooden walkway. They had her cornered before she could turn to count them, and every one of them moved with the precision of people who had waited a very long time for this moment. Layla reached her hand toward the canal, and the water answered. It surged up the wall in a magenta sheet that hardened beneath her feet and Anne's. The board thrust them from the walkway and out across the surface. They rode down the canal, the rain splitting around them, and the escape on the far bank came closer. Then, more figures emerged from the dark between the houses. They occupied the exact stretch of bank where she'd aimed to land. They appeared to be wilders, armed with weapons she'd never seen before. The magenta board struck the stone lip of the canal. Before she could draw the water back into her hands, several assailants closed in on both of them, tearing Anne sideways and wrenching Layla's arms behind her back. "It wasn't the palace that asked you to call me here tonight, Anne." "What do you mean?" Anne bellowed. From behind several cloaked wielders, a woman made her way to the front. She had blue hair that seemed to stand on end and skin that was a ghostly white. Her chin seemed to come to a single point, giving her lips a pursed appearance. "We've spent a very long time looking for you. Thank you so much for your help, dear." The woman ran her eyes over Anne from braids to boots. "Let her go!" Layla strained against the grip. "She has nothing to do with this." "On the contrary," she hissed. "Tell me, Anne, do you know the location of Pixie Village?" "Pixie Village?" Anne turned to Layla and immediately realized her mistake. Layla held a sphere of Morphix at her side. She could break the man's grip and get away, but she couldn't fight off the dozen others to save her friend. The woman looked at Anne a moment longer and seemed to decide she truly knew nothing. "You are a rather slippery little fairy, aren't you, Your Majesty?" The woman circled Layla. "You've had us on some sort of wild goose chase for over a year. Every time we drew the net closed, you slipped away. I'll confess there were nights I admired it." She stopped. "But every tide goes out in the end, child. So tell me, where is Pixie Village?" Layla scowled at the woman. She frowned and gestured at the man holding Anne. He let her go. Anne paused and went to draw a breath to speak. Then the woman drove a spear through her from behind. Anne gasped and collapsed to the ground. A scream tore out of Layla. She broke the grip and threw herself toward her friend to try to stop her bleeding out. Half a dozen wielders surged in and hauled Layla back. She conjured jets of water from the canal as she tried to transform, but panic overcame her. She clawed for enough concentration to use her Morphix to escape with Anne. Before she had another moment to think, a wielder drove a needle into the side of her neck. Cold bloomed out from the sight. It drained the strength from her arms first, then her legs. Her knees struck the wet ground, and she fell onto her side. A few feet away, through the dark closing in at the edges of her vision, Anne lay where she'd fallen. Blood pooled beneath her and reached the canal, a ribbon of red unraveling into black. Layla tried to reach for her. She could barely drag her hand across the slick paving. The woman tutted and stalked closer until Layla's vision finally went black. "See you soon, Princess Aisha."